what they are, why they're important, and why you should be focused on rhythms and routines instead of strict schedules, especially when it comes to baby sleep. So, I want to start off with this that thanks in part to the sleep training culture that is out there, there is a lot of pressure on us parents to make sure that our children are on a strict sleep schedule with strict wake windows and that they must nap at this certain time during the day and they must nap for this long. And literally, I feel like mamas, and even back when I was a mom, I was doing all of the all of the logging of feeding times and sleeping times and which breast I had fed on last and all of the things like down to the minute. And I still get that from moms that I work with. And they'll tell me that their baby napped for 24 minutes or that their baby went to sleep 1 hour and 27 minutes after they woke, like that was their wake window length. Like it's minute details like that, I really feel that are causing us a lot of stress, a lot of overwhelm, confusion, and we're kind of micromanaging our entire day, micromanaging our babies, our kids, and that is stressful. Um, so if you've ever heard of the whole like, oh, you should put your baby to sleep at 7, wake them up at 7. That's the ideal sleeping time for everyone. Maybe you've heard of the following the 2-3-4 method for wake window. So 2 hours for the first wake window, 3 hours for the next wake window, and 4 hours before bed. Then if you've heard of those or tried those, you know that they most likely don't work. I tried both of those and I failed miserably with my first. I was so stressed out. I was beating myself up and thinking that I was doing something wrong. And so I'm here to change that. and so I want you to first remember, if you've been listening to me, if you have been following me, then you know that I truly, truly, truly hone in on the fact that as humans, we are all unique beings, including our babies. And so there is no one sleep schedule that could be perfect for every baby that is the same age. It's actually just not possible because we're all different. We all have different sleep needs. We all have different, things that calm us down and things that alert us and keep us awake and all of those things. Just like you and I, we are all different. We have our own personal preferences. And so instead of looking at specific schedules, which I find are a little bit more restrictive, um, and sometimes lead to this micromanaging, because if you're not on schedule, that's already stressful in itself. Instead, I prefer to look at rhythms and routines, especially when I support my clients with sleep. But rhythms and routines are found in our daily lives, and this can really help you in all aspects of motherhood. So, as adults, we thrive on rhythms and routines and consistency, and these are really, really important for our children as well. Familiar, predictable, and rhythmic things are all viewed by our primitive brain as safe, by our survival brain as safe, which means that they leave us feeling calmer, more regulated, versus things that are unfamiliar, unpredictable, and new, which put our nervous system into a fight or flight kind of state, which increases stress and cortisol levels. So, rhythms are the first thing that I want to just kind of talk about. And we have rhythms all over us. The natural world and Earth, living on Earth, there are rhythms. There's night and day, there's seasons, there's moon cycles. We also have rhythms inside of our body. So we have circadian rhythms, which are very important in sleep as well. But then also as women, we have menstrual rhythms, right? Or a menstrual cycle. And so you probably are already providing your baby or your children with weekly and even daily rhythms. And you're probably doing that without even thinking about it. You might have daily activities like meal times, or maybe you're walking the dog at certain kind of times during the day, not specific to the time, but in a specific spot in the day. So maybe you walk the dog after breakfast, for example. Sometimes that's 7:30, sometimes that's 8, right? Maybe you're reading a book before bed. Maybe you always have a cup of coffee or tea as your baby naps for their first nap of the day. Maybe you always go outside to play after breakfast. Or maybe you sit on the couch watching Netflix after your babies or children go to sleep. Perhaps you have mom and baby classes on a certain day of the week, or your toddler goes to daycare 2 days a week. These are very common activities that allow our children and us to identify where we are in the week. They create patterns, they create familiarity in our day-to-day lives. And these rhythms may actually develop unexpectedly, and so kind of unconsciously, but they may also change as your baby ages. So we naturally, though, come back to a rhythm each time, even if it's changing, even if it kind of gets disrupted. Let's say if we have an illness, or if we're going traveling, or maybe the daycare is closed for 1 week. But we kind of get back to those rhythms. And so it's important to note that a rhythm sort of flows rather than jolting us from one activity to the next, which I feel like a schedule does more. Like, oh, 1 o'clock I have to do this. Oh, 2 o'clock I have to do this. Oh, bedtime is 7. Nap time is 10 o'clock. And if we don't get to nap time, then I'm going to be stressed out, right? So there's a lot of stress, I feel like, that comes with schedules. But then when we bring in this concept of rhythms, it really does start to take a little bit more of breathing room, right? So, how are rhythms different than routines and schedules? I get this question all the time. So, I find rhythms are more broad, they're free flowing. I find routines are sort of the next layer. They're a little bit more structured. They involve things happening usually in the same order. And I find that schedules, as I've mentioned, are often more rigid and they're often time dependent, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because many of us have work schedules with specific timing of events. But when we are talking about babies and young children, we all know that things don't necessarily happen on time, right? You could plan to be at a class for 1 o'clock, but you might not get there until 1:20 because of a poop explosion that happened before you left the house, or your baby was screaming in the car and you had to pull over and deal with that, or whatever it was. Okay. And so children thrive on that natural rhythm of the day, but then with some predictability and various routines. But they don't actually need to have those time dependent strict schedules the way that we do at, let's say, our work. Okay. So when I finally stopped trying to schedule my days with my first and I leaned into going with the flow, allowing my baby to nap when and where he wanted, letting go of the need to attend specific classes on time or even at all, our lives became much less overwhelming and stressful. By letting go of the rigid schedule, I sort of let go of the shoulds, right? And this made me and probably my son feel as if a weight had been taken off of our shoulders. I could just breathe. I could just be present with him. I could follow the natural flow of our day, whatever that might be on any given day. And so, my sort of challenge to you is to think about that and maybe to try it just for a little while, see how it goes. So, combining some predictability of those routines, which often happen in the same order. So, bedtime routine, nap time routine. You probably have a morning routine that you do. I know I have a morning routine and an evening routine I do in terms of like skincare. I wash my face, I put different creams on, which I will share another day, maybe even tomorrow, because I just love my new skincare routine. My skin is feeling really, really soft. That's just an aside, but we'll talk about that another time, which is a really great way of self care, which, if you're following me, you know how important I feel self care is, especially for mamas, because we don't do enough of it. And so, really, I would love for you to give this a try, just kind of leaning into the flow of the day, having your routines, but maybe just not being so tied to timings and strict schedules. Um, I find that being tied to particular nap times and sleep places can often make getting out and about, visiting friends, going to classes, taking holidays, a lot more complicated. Even now with the summer, at least here in Canada, it's summer and the sun doesn't go down until like 8:30. So we've had to shift our rhythms and routines during the day for my own kids because they used to go to bed around 7:30 and it was dark then. Now the sun is still shining high in the sky and they're like, "Mommy, it's not nighttime yet." And I'm like, "I know. I totally understand you." So you have to be a little flexible. And so we're actually going to bed a little bit later. Luckily, they are on summer vacation, so they can also potentially sleep in a little bit. My daughter loves to sleep in. My son, not so much. He's the one that has lower sleep needs and always has. Um, but anyway, so I just wanted to talk a little bit about these sort of routines and rhythms. Hopefully, you understand now a little bit more how these are different than having a strict schedule and how maybe they'll just free up your life a little bit rather than having a strict schedule. Maybe they'll help you relax and kind of manage the day a little bit more easily. Um, so I also want to just mention that routines are really helpful because, especially for like nap time, bedtime, around sleep times for kids, it really does let them know what comes next. So having a routine with things happening in a consistent order, that consistency is really great. It often helps with compliance, but especially with the sleep routines, it can really start setting the stage for them to learn. Oh, it's now time to sleep. I am calm. I am relaxed. I can let my body relax so that I can get sleep more easily. So if you have any questions for me, I would love to hear them down below this video. I do talk more about rhythms and routines inside my sleep courses. I've got two of them. I have one free one and I have two paid ones. One is the sleep makeover. That is sort of the first step. That's going to teach you a little bit more about the infant brain and parenting the infant brain and how do we optimize sleep. And then the holistic dreams sleep course goes into a lot more detail about the sleep science, about various different strategies that you can implement for early rising, for false starts, how to do more of this rhythm and routine concept as well. So I have posted those below the video. So if you would like to have a look at that, I would be happy to support you with more sleep. And I will see you all around. Bye for now.